Hi everyone, Flaming Footy here and welcome back to another YouTube video on the channel. And today guys, we are going to be continuing our big round reviews. Yes, another big round review coming up. And in today's video, we are going to be reviewing every game from round 14 of the 2022 AFL season. Now, round 14 was the final bye round that we had. So we're going to be back to the full 9 round games, which I really like. So looking forward to that. But anyway, with the bye rounds, of course, we'll be going over who had their byes. So Brisbane, Collingwood, Fremantle, Hawthorn, Melbourne and North Melbourne. Some pretty big teams were out of action in round number 14. We're not going to waste too much time. Big round of footy. We're starting off on Thursday night footy with Richmond versus Carlton. So it was a really big blockbuster battle, and Richmond 11-15-81 were too good for Carlton 9-12-66. And pretty much this game was, well, in Richmond's favour for most of it, but Carlton did come back a little bit later on in the game. But Richmond, they kept Carlton goalless in the first quarter, which almost had the story of their night. They extended their lead in the second quarter. The Blues were within touching distance at the final change. The Tigers kicked the first two, the Blues kicked the next 3 or 4, and then they were back within 2 kicks, but the Tigers just kick a little bit of a goal that gets them away and a few behind to seal the deal. This game was very important for their finals hopes. In fact, now it's so close they can even make the top 4. Richmond, Carlton, you're not sure where they're sitting right now. They've just fallen out a little bit over the last couple of weeks, but Richmond by 15 in an absolute Thursday night blockbuster. Now to Friday night we go, where St Kilda 11-6-72 lost to the Bombers 15-17-107. The Bombers win by 35 and a comfortable upset win for them. And this one was, well, a ripping win for them. And they had it all done. They did the damage in the first half, really. And there was another key moment in the game, but the first half was where they were spectacular. They were leading, and it was just like, oh, the Saints will come back, and they did exactly so in the third quarter. And then the Bombers, they just kicked the next goals. Like, the Saints kicked like 5 in a row. The Saints kicked 5 in a row. The Bombers kicked the next 6 to ensure that they locked themselves away at around a 30 or so, well, 35-ish point margin to lock themselves away, and then you knew the game was over from there. The Saints again tried to come back within striking distance in the final quarter, but again, it just was not enough, and the Bombers were just too good, and they were actually inaccurate, so they could have won this game by more. But what an upset win for the Bombers. The Bombers by 35. This was a big win. They did it in Spud's game, and they did it under Friday Night Lights in the marquee time slot. Now to the Adelaide Oval we go for Saturday afternoon footy, where Port Adelaide 12-10-82 were too strong for the Sydney Swans 8-11-59. Their hopes for finals still remain open, but only slightly. They'd have to do everything right to get in from here. But it was built off the back of a ripping third quarter, which sees them kick 6-1, which ultimately was where the game was won. The Swans were on fire early, kicking the first 3 goals of the game. And then Port Adelaide kicked a few back late to, well, give themselves the lead. And then the second quarter was again a even quarter. The Swans, though, they were inaccurate in that second quarter. More goals, and they could have got the margin out to a lengthy stage and have the result being completely different. But in the third quarter, though, Port Adelaide kicked 6 goals in a row and are ensured victory after that. The Swans only getting 1 goal late back in the final part of that third quarter, and the margin is still 30 points at 3/4 time. Only the 2 goals kicked in the final term to Sydney. Port Adelaide a goalless final term, but in the end, they did set up a successful third quarter, which did make them win the game. A strong performance by Port Adelaide. They did it without some of their stars. Finals, the door is still slightly open for them to make a late run at the top 8. Now over to Optus Stadium we go, where the Eagles 9-9-63 put up a very valid effort against the strong Geelong Cats 12-9-81. And the Eagles, it wasn't a bad result. It was a win out of a loss, if you get what I'm talking about. The Cats win by 18, but the Eagles, there was signs of improvement, and hosting the Bombers Friday night at this ground, well, they could be brewing up something here. But what a game of footy it was, especially if you're looking at a West Coast point of view. It was really nice to see them actually back on track. and actually put up some sort of effort. We haven't really seen too much of it this year, but this one was amazing. And from the Geelong point of view, it was another great game for their team. But West Coast, they built it off a pretty successful second quarter where they could have almost pulled off the win. The Cats did lead in the first quarter, and it looked like they were going to blow them away in the second quarter. But no, the Eagles just kicked the next 4 or so goals to come right back into the frame of things and be level at half-time. The third quarter is where the Cats got momentum going, and they did enough to drive themselves home in the final quarter. But West Coast put up a very valid effort, but just not good enough to beat one of the best in the competition, the Geelong Cats. The Cats win by 18 points. Now to Saturday night footy we go, where the Giants 16-9-105 get defeated by the Western Bulldogs 19-11-125. The Dogs by 20, but what a game footy. It was one of the highest scoring games of the year, and it was high scoring, free flowing. The scores were 34-37 at quarter time. You knew there that we had a brilliant game in store. It was relatively even throughout the first half of the game, with the Dogs leading at both breaks. The Giants not really having much of a lead in this time, but they were still right in the game. The third quarter, though, is where the Dogs took the game to be their own and hung on in the final term. There were some really big player performances in this game. Toby Green, career best, 7 goals. Cody Waitman, 5 first half goals. Aaron Norton, 5 goals as well. But what a ripping game it was of footy. And even though we may have had a bit of a clear winner, the Giants were always in it in the first half, and they were still in it late in the game. But again, though, what a brilliant game of footy it was. One of the highest scoring games of the year, and the Dogs prevailed by 20 points, which does keep their finals hopes alive. Right now, teams like the Doggies, the Suns, and Port Adelaide need to be on the right track. They need to win a lot of their games to make a late push for the top 8. And now one of the teams I was just talking about, the Gold Coast Suns, 18-8-116, smashed the Adelaide Crows 10-13-73 by 43 points. The Crows were yet again inaccurate, but the Suns, this does open the door for a late push. A really big clash coming up against Port Adelaide next week to see where they're at. They don't play the Adelaide Oval well, but who knows? This was a big win against the other Adelaide side in the Adelaide Crows. They were the much better side. The Crows, though, they were good in the first quarter, leading. But the Suns in the second quarter, they kicked the next 6 goals to ensure victory. And they were up by, even though it may have been around 24 at half-time, it still just wasn't. The Crows just, they tried, they came back within 19 points in the final term. But I think you always knew the Suns were going to win this game. Bigger than what I thought, but yeah, they end up smashing the Crows, and it's a big win for them. Percentage to make the top 8. They're still a decent crack to make the top 8 this year, are the Gold Coast Suns. And, of course, again, buys to Brisbane, Collingwood, Fremantle, Hawthorn, Melbourne, and North Melbourne. So, now there's a couple of things that we could do next. We're going to go to the ladder next, though, before looking at round 15. So, the ladder is really big, and stay tuned for the round 15 preview. That is a big one. That's going to be one of the best previews I've made all year. It's really exciting. It's going to be a brilliant preview. But, yeah, the top 3 are all equal on points. Brisbane, Melbourne, and Fremantle. The Cats and the Blues are even on 36 points in 4th and 5th. Then the Tigers, the Swans, and the Saints, and the Pies are all even on 32 points with results. Really important this round. In round 15. And then the Doggies and the Suns are on 28, which, again, there will be a loser out of Sydney and St Kilda. So, again, this does open the door for them. But Port Adelaide, 1 foot wrong, and they are done. So, they must get a win over the Gold Coast Suns, which, again, that's a really big game. So, now, going to the really big games, it is a, once in many years occasion coming up. Melbourne versus Brisbane on the Thursday night, 2nd versus 1st. Western Bulldogs versus Hawthorn on the Friday night, 10th versus 14th. Double Friday nighter. Essendon versus West Coast at Optus Stadium, 18th versus 16th. The Blues and the Dockers, 5th versus 3rd. The Cats and the Tigers, 4th versus 6th. The Swans and the Saints, 7th versus 8th. The Roos and the Crows, 17th versus 15th. The Pies and the Giants, 9th versus 13th. And Port Adelaide versus Gold Coast, 12th versus 11th. Now, also today, we did get our 2021 and 22 fixture release. But I'm not going to go over that. But again, some really big games in there. But this is going to be setting up a pre-finals look at things. So, I would recommend, we'll just go over this real quick. Something I don't normally do. If I was to recommend you, 4 games you should be watching this round, I would definitely be saying Melbourne vs Brisbane being my first one that you should watch. I would recommend Carlton versus Fremantle, Geelong versus Brisbane, Sydney versus St Kilda, the Saturdays must-watch games. And then another, if you've got more time on the Sunday, Collingwood versus GWS and Port Adelaide versus Gold Coast are some more games that are really crucial. North versus Adelaide, West Coast versus Essendon, Doggies versus Hawks will still be great. But again, you can see just not as important as some of the others. But again, the Dogs and the Hawks, really important for the Dogs. Some teams just playing for a respective season as possible. Others, though, are playing for the finals. The finals race is blown wide open. But anyway, that is my round 14 review. Richmond 81 got over Carlton 66. St Kilda 72 lost to the Bombers 107. Port Adelaide 82 got over the Swans 59. The Cats 81 got over the Eagles 63. The Dogs 125 won over the Giants 105. And the Suns 116 got over the Crows 73. So thank you guys all so much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell. See you guys and then miss another video on the channel. Thank you guys all so much for watching. So bye everyone. Flaming Footy out.